चित चोराए सौदा के बाद, नवनीत चोर गोपाल। चित चोराए सौदा के बाद, नवनीत चोर गोपाल। गोपाल 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 गोवर्धन धर गोपाल। चोराए सौदा के बाद, नवनीत चोर गोपाल। चित चोराए सौदा के बाद, नवनीत चोर गोपाल।
प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती। वीणामवित्रयवतु गणेशाय नमः, सरस्वत्यै नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। यश्चन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः, छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव। समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु, अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम्। शरीरं मे विचर्षणम्, जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा। कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम्, ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः। श्रुतं मे गोपाय, वीणा देवी जुषमाणा न आगात्। विश्वाची भद्रा सुमनस्य माना, त्वया जुष्टानुदमाना दुरुक्तान्। बृहद्वधेम विदधे सुवीराः, त्वया जुष्टऋषिर्भवति देवि त्वया ब्रह्मा गतश्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टं चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वत्र विनो न मेधे मेधां म इन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना उभावा दत्ता पुष्करस्त्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवी मेधा सरस्वती सामा मेधा सुरभिर्जुषता गुस्वाहा आमा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा पिन्वमाना सामा मेधा सुप्रदीका जुषन्ता मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि अग्निस्तेजो ददातु मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि इन्द्र इन्द्रियं ददातु मयि मेधा मयि प्रजा मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो ददातु ॐ हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् ईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
My most humble and loving pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, the founder chancellor of Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Sai Ram and a pleasant morning greetings to all the attendees of this virtual conference on entrepreneurship and innovation titled as Stand Up, Startup and Scale Up, the dimensions of entrepreneurship and innovation in the post-COVID era. Being an entrepreneur is hard, exciting, and fulfilling all at the same time. Being an entrepreneur is having the courage to take a shot at that crazy ambition you have. Being an entrepreneur is to be a king, daring to be different, daring to manifest your greatness. Being an entrepreneur is to turn perceived risk into an asset. Being an entrepreneur is being one's own boss. Being an entrepreneur is not just about having ideas, but making ideas happen. For the benefit of all the aspiring and budding entrepreneurs, the Department of Management and Commerce of Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning joined hands with eminent experts and corporate veterans to understand ways in which the entrepreneurial zeal of aspiring entrepreneurs can be translated into vision and action. With this short note, let us proceed with the proceedings of the conference. Be ready to stand up, start up, and scale up. First in the schema of the two-day virtual conference is the welcome address by Professor Rajeshwari C. Patel, Director, Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur Campus. Madam is a distinguished academician with over 36 years of experience. During her work tenure at Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Madam has held several administrative positions. She was the Dean of Economics and Humanities during 2017-18, Head of the Department of English from 2010 to 2017, Member of the Research Advisory Board, member of the leadership team of the institute, member of the campus hostel management committee, member of the internal quality assurance cell, member of the board of management, and is currently the director of the women's campus of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Madam has several distinctions and awards to her credit, and to name a few, Best Speaker Award during Summer Course in Indian Culture and Spirituality in the year 1976, National Merit Scholarship for Distinction in BA, Vasagiri Kamalamma Memorial Award for standing first in the MA English examinations of the Sri Krishna Devaraya University, and most important of all, she was a recipient of Sai Krishna Award for Excellence in Research in the year 2013. She has guided 23 PG dissertations, 5 MPhil dissertations, and 7 doctoral research works. She has been resource person and invited dignitary guest speaker in various seminars and workshops. Let us now listen to the welcome address of Professor Rajeshwari C. Patel.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my loving salutations at the divine lotus feet of our divine master, Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Respected Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor Sanjeevi, the Registrar Professor Sai Giridhar, the Controller of Examinations Sri Sanjay Sahani, distinguished guests, the guest of honor of today's session, Dr. Renu Swaroop, speakers at this e-conference, special alumni invitees, deans, directors of campuses, senior faculty of the university, colleagues, research scholars, and my dear students. Sai Ram to everybody. As director of the Anantapur campus of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, it is my pleasure to extend a warm and cordial welcome to each and every one of you to the e-conference titled Stand Up, Start Up, Scale Up, the dimensions of entrepreneurship and innovation in the post-COVID era, organized by the Department of Management and Commerce, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. The conference is a joint exercise put together with excellent teamwork among the faculty of the 4 campuses, initiated by Vice Chancellor Sir and given shape by Dr. Shweta with the guidance and support of the Head of Department, Dr. Suma Rao. In this context, that is in the context of this conference, I would like you to know that as an enlightened citizen of India, I have been keenly following the work that our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, has been doing for our country ever since his election to office in 2014. Our Prime Minister mooted the concept of Startup India in January 2016. I watched the program live on television, and I thought at that time that there was great promise in the young talent of our country. I also thought that if we could carry forward the Prime Minister's clarion call, tap the talent of young India, we would be constructing a new chapter in the making of a new India. So, when Dr. Shweta approached me a couple of months ago with this project, I was enthused by the fact that someone from our institute, and particularly someone from the Anantapur campus, was taking forward this idea. I was present when the whole concept of organizing this conference was in its nascent stage. At the time, I must confess, I did not think it would become something so big, but then here we are today. The Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur, is the only women's campus of the university. It is not a coincidence that on 8th July this year, the campus complex completed 50 years of its inauguration. As you may be aware, the educational mission of Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba commenced with the Sri Sathya Sai Arts and Science College for Women at Anantapur in 1968. The college was temporarily housed in the premises of the Government Girls High School in Anantapur town till the new building was constructed and inaugurated in the presence of the then President of India, Sri V.V. Giri, on 8th July 1971. It is not a coincidence, therefore. In fact, I should say that it is part of a divine master plan that the first significant academic event in the golden jubilee year of the Anantapur campus is an e-conference on SSS, Sri Sathya Sai, and Stand Up, Start Up, Scale Up. Those of us who are sitting on the periphery thinking someone else is going to do something, or that someone else should do something, need to stand up first. Those of us who are standing, thinking someone else should take the initiative, need to start up. And those who have started up should not look back. We have to scale up before someone beats us at the game. I hope that the participants of the e-conference draw inspiration from the wonderful array of speakers who are going to address us. I also hope that what started as a thought does not remain a mere thought. As Bhagwan Baba used to say, translate knowledge into action. On this note, I conclude by welcoming everyone once again to this two-day conference on entrepreneurship and innovation. I'm happy to inform you that once the ideas reach fructification, the 1996 alumni batch of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur campus, has already committed financial support to the entrepreneurial efforts of our young minds. In that case, this conference could well be the seed of a seminal effort. May our Lord bless us in all our noble efforts. Sai Ram, thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for extending a heartwarming welcome to all the attendees of the conference. We hope that this conference will tap the talent of aspiring entrepreneurs and instill great motivation to turn brilliant ideas into action. Next in the schema of this virtual conference is the introductory remarks by Dr. Ms. Suma, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Management and Commerce. Madam graduated with BCom and BA degrees from Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning and pursued MCom and MEd from Annamalai University. She joined the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning for teaching in the year 1998. Her doctoral research was on gender bias and work-life balance amongst women executives in India. As a student, she was a recipient of the All-Rounder Gold Medal awarded by the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning for overall excellence in academics and extracurricular activities in the year 1990. In 2012, she was awarded the Sai Krishna Award for Excellence in Teaching by the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Let us now listen to the words of Suma Madam.
My humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet and Sai Ram to one and all logged into this e-conference on entrepreneurship titled Stand Up, Start Up and Scale Up, discussing dimensions of entrepreneurship and innovation in the post-COVID era. The significance of entrepreneurship in the current times can hardly be disputed. The pandemic has only served to reiterate the importance of entrepreneurship for economic resilience and independence. The ecosystem that fosters entrepreneurship is developing in India. 5 years since the launch of Startup India initiative by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India is now witnessing a golden chapter in the history of entrepreneurship. Recognized as the third largest startup ecosystem, as of July 2021, a total of 52,391 entities are officially recognized as startups by the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. The growth and advancement of Indian IT companies, the availability of capital and investors, along with government policies and support, tax exemptions, simplification of procedures, industry academia partnerships for incubation, all these efforts are making the dream of Atmanirbhar Bharat a realizable dream. Just to throw a little light on the title of this e-conference for the benefit of our young audience, Startup India is a flagship initiative of the Government of India intended to build a strong ecosystem that is conducive for the growth of startup businesses. It drives economic growth, generates large-scale employment opportunities. The government, through this initiative, aims to empower startups to grow through the innovation through two areas, innovation and design. And it basically provides hand-holding through the tricky perils of starting up. Stand Up India scheme was started for the less advantaged entrepreneurs. It aims at facilitating bank loans from something like from 10 lakhs to 1 crore to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe entrepreneurs, to women entrepreneurs, so that they can set up greenfield enterprises. Scale up, as the word is obvious, it's about growing in size, growing in productivity. According to 2019 MSME Ministry's annual report, India had 6.33 crore MSMEs in 2019, of which a staggering 99.4% were micro enterprises, and only 0.5% were small enterprises, which means scaling is the need of the day. Scaling up micro and small businesses to medium entities would translate to a huge increase in productivity, output, and above all, employment, unleashing a multiplier effect. Having said all this, at the heart of entrepreneurship is the entrepreneur himself. The entrepreneurial qualities what is required range from imagination to vision to risk-taking, courage, tenacity, and many more qualities. It demands the best of human spirit to take risks, to tolerate the up and down that is involved in an uncertain and perilous journey of the entrepreneur. It requires passion, a burning desire to make a difference, the ability to execute a vision and translate it into action. Swami has often said to students to not use their degree as begging bowls, begging for jobs, and instead be job creators, in short, be entrepreneurs. In order to give you the full import of what he has said, I quote Bhagwan when Swami says, and I quote, "Instead of education for doing the work of society, we are having education for jobs, which the society has to create to give them work. The head is loaded with trivial information and the heart is hardened. Education is a begging bowl. When the course of studies is over and the pupil has come out of the drill and the grill, he is awarded a degree at the convocation. This degree, in effect, is only a begging bowl. With that in hand, the graduate can go to every office and clamor at every door, give me a job. Give me a job. Present day education converts youth into beggars, seeking food from door to door. They cannot stand on their own legs and earn food independently. This is not a sign or characteristic of Bharatiya culture, I unquote. How exactly can this injunction be followed? Can we become entrepreneurs? What entails the entrepreneurial journey? How do we get funding? How do we develop our ideas? What is the exact support that we can get? All these questions and more will be answered in this e-conference. Entrepreneurship has many, many dimensions. We have lined up for you all talks, panel discussions from the best minds in this country and abroad. And they will focus on different elements of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Why is entrepreneurship a national priority? How crisis is present opportunity, a crisis like the pandemic? What's the investment and funding angle in entrepreneurship? What values are required for entrepreneurship? In short, this e-conference is a feast for your head and your heart. A lot of groundwork has been done for this conference by the Anantapur campus teachers under the lead of Dr. Shweta Tiruchunuru. Vice Chancellor Professor Sanjeevi Karini has brought experts from Sweden and India to ignite the entrepreneurial passions of our students. Professor Sai Giridhar, Registrar, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, has supported us in making this e-conference a reality. Professor Rajeshwari Patel, Director, Anantapur campus, has unstintingly spared her time and resources to make this a success. And not only this, all the other campuses, Prashanta Nilayam, Brindavan, Mudanhilli, all of them have participated in some way or the other and joined the effort of making this e-conference informative and useful to students and to wider audience. Our alumni, many of them who are themselves entrepreneurs, are participating in this effort to share their entrepreneurial journey and ensure that their university students get the best exposure. The deep bond that alma mater has to Swami and their desire to share everything to enrich the current students' experience is truly laudable. We request you all students to tune in and absorb as much wisdom as you can, to participate actively, to ask questions, and in future contribute to the rebuilding of this glorious nation by becoming entrepreneurs. With these words, I welcome you to this e-conference on entrepreneurship titled Stand Up, Start Up, Scale Up, discussing dimensions of entrepreneurship and innovation in the post-COVID era. Thank you, and Sairam.
Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, once said, "So many entrepreneurs are worried about protecting their precious ideas, but the truly valuable thing is that you are in motion, you have the momentum, and you are gathering all the necessary resources to make it happen." Entrepreneurs create new business in a gradual and evolving way through iterative execution and re-execution. Thank you, Suma Madam, for setting the right tone for the conference and highlighting on the supportive ecosystem available in India to nurture business ideas. As included in the introductory remarks of Suma Madam, this conference is built on the expositions of Swami to students, the future of Bharat, and the expectations from Bhagwan students who are very much capable of serving their society through various business ideas. Next in the schema of this virtual conference is the inaugural address by Professor B. Sai Giridhar, the Registrar of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Sir was the student of the first batch of the integrated BCom program of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning in 1982. He completed his MCom in 1987 and subsequently in the year 1993, he was awarded PhD for research in the area of multi-echelon distribution inventory systems. While Sir was a student, he was awarded the All-Rounder Gold Medal of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning in the year 1986. In 1992, Sir joined the Department of Management and Commerce, which was then the Department of Commerce, as a faculty member. Sir served as the Deputy Director of the Prashanthi Nilayam campus of the Institute from 2014 to 2015. In 2015, he was appointed as the head of the Department of Management and Commerce for a period of 3 years, post which he was designated as the Registrar of the University. Let us now listen to the inaugural address of Professor B. Sai Giridhar. Let us now listen.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Which one are you showing? Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my loving pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Respected Vice Chancellor Sir, Deans of various faculties, Heads of Department, Directors, faculty members, colleagues, and my dear students. You can start sharing. Entrepreneurship. This is derived from a French word which means to undertake. When we talk of entrepreneurship, entrepreneur will be a leader. When we say a leader, Bhagwan has spelt out what are the qualities which a leader should consider if he has got to take things forward. The first thing which comes to our mind is mind of man. Mind of man. What is understood by mind of man? Why do we have to think about mind of man? Because if you want to come out with a product, then what is very critical or what is very necessary is that we have got to think in terms of the need of a person or a want of a person, as it is stated in marketing. For example, if you talk in terms of the current generation want to participate in ensuring that the environment is preserved and also make an investment in areas where they are going to have some returns at the end of certain period of time. You talk in terms of Hosa Chiguru, which is a venture which you come across where people can buy a plot of land. They've got a common facility in terms of stay, but it also ensures that they grow some plants of their liking in that region. So this is where you try to find a need which is there in the market. Why? Because if you talk in terms of the current generation, they may not be able to spend that much of time in the market. Awareness of Atma. This is nothing but syncing with the universe. It is always necessary that we are aware of who we are and what is our purpose. Only then we can think in terms of guiding the entire business or the business proposition that we have to a logical end. So it is very necessary, because if you are in sync with nature, God blesses, nature blesses, everyone is willing to bless. So that is where it is necessary that we know where we are, so that our thought is not cluttered, our thought is not biased, our thought is not muddled up with aspects which really don't matter. Nature of nations. Think of what Kellogg's did. When they came into the Indian market, they said, we will change the breakfast habit of Indians. But today, what do we find? Kellogg's Upma on the shelf of our supermarkets. So this is where we find what Bhagwan says, nature of nations. We should be able to understand the fabric and the culture of that particular nation so that we can take it forward and also strengthen it. When Star Group came into India, they said that we will come only with the soap operas of West. In fact, a lot of upheaval was there, saying that the cultural fabric of India will be destroyed by this network. But today, what do we find? We find cereals which are reflection of the Indian value or the Indian system of living. Why do we have to think in terms of environment? Bhagwan says environment is something which we have got to cultivate, grow, ensure that we preserve that. That's why in Indian culture we recognize everything as God and everyone as God. Why? Because when we see God in everything, then our respect for that or our value which we attach to that is something which is very different when compared to if we treat it as a tree or a stone as a stone. So this is where it's very important that we take into consideration the aspect of environment. Why do we need to be good? Because that's something, if you are not good, you do not bring in goodness into the business, how can the business survive? The interaction which you're going to have with your clients, customers. There is an instance which I come across, which was shared by one of the companies. I do not want to name the company, wherein one of the clients' son had to go to UK, and the client expressed this apprehension to the relationship manager when he was discussing the relationship. Because he was a high net worth individual, the relationship manager immediately spoke to his superiors, and what they did was, from the side of the organization, that's a bank, they said, we will send a person to escort your son to UK and come back. So this is where you find that the way you're going to treat your customers, the way you're going to treat your employees, the way you're going to treat your superiors, subordinates, peers, it matters. It should be one happy family, and that there should not be aspects which cloud that relationship. When there's a mistrust in the organization, that's where we lose our goodness, and we start working on something which might be a lead which may not be very favorable. Then as a result, the organization suffers, individuals suffer. Why? Because you're lost with something which is not driving the organization to a higher level. Inquiry into ethos. Bhagwan says all our work should be something which is ethical in nature. He always says that sometimes people maintain two sets of accounts, two sets of books of accounts, one for themselves, one for the government, or one for the income tax and things of that nature. So when we are talking of ethos, where trust, it takes a very long time to build, but one act of a person can destroy it forever. But once you do that, if you repent, there's no point. Why? Because you don't stand a chance to rebuild it. Why? Because once you have broken the trust of a person, it is very difficult to recover. Like, for example, if you have interacted or used a very harsh word on someone, the person is going to keep that in his mind unless he has reached a different level of existence in this on this face of earth. So that's why it's very important that we think in terms of ethos, how we are conducting ourselves, whether it is ethical, whether it is going to be beneficial for everyone, and things of that nature. What's the role of rules? If you don't have rules, we may be very biased. We may be not having something like a uniform set of actions which we'll follow. So if I like someone, then I have a set of rules. If I don't like someone, I will try to find out what is the problem with that particular rule because of which I can't implement. We can't be that way. If you want to be a good leader, then in that case, if you talk of UGC has got a set of rules which the deemed to be university has to follow. Government of India has got a set of rules which every citizen has to follow. It can be a norm which can be converted to a rule, or a rule which is followed by everyone. But Bhagwan says if a leader has got to succeed, then this is something which is very critical, which we have got to go by. If you see this list, we find that these are companies which you come across which are in the Indian market. I've taken only companies which are in the Indian market, and some of them have come in for a initial public offer and did very well in the market. You can give me the remote otherwise. You will find that this is where These are examples of a company. Ritesh Agarwal launched Oyo. Now today you find that it is worldwide operations, 800 cities, 80 countries. Paytm, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, he has found a $1 billion company which takes care of, especially in the time of demonetization or current pandemic, everyone, you find that everyone is moving towards this area. You're talking of nobody wants to use, especially the younger generation, nobody wants to withdraw money. The concept of withdrawal, in fact, I was having a chat with one of the regional managers of a very leading nationalized bank. He said where the hits were around 1,000 earlier, it has come to around 300 hits today. So this is where you find that it has changed, the landscape has changed. But 2020 was a very tough year for most of the businesses. Why? Because the way COVID has hit, you find that travel has been hit, tourism has been hit, hospitality industry has been hit, lot of layoffs have happened, manufacturing has come down. In fact, a few days back, you would have heard that Maruti has gone in for a cut in production and stoppage of work in some places. Why? Semiconductors are not available. So this is where you find that the brunt of it is faced by, but at the same time, there are some companies or some industries which did well, like for example, IT, pharma, video conferencing, online teaching, commerce. All these are cases where you find that they did very well. There are cases where you come by where companies have failed, startups have failed. For example, Smash. This was started with the intention of ensuring that you have a very unique system of sports simulations, motor racing, bike racing, and things of that nature. But unfortunately, the founder of that had to announce that he's going to close this down because he's not able to run it because it's very difficult to have the ends meet. So when we talk in terms of the all these aspects, I'll just play a short video, maybe of 2 minutes, and then we will see and take it forward from there.
My name is Reagan Moyer-Jones. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Aiden and A, and we manufacture and retail baby products globally. The idea for the business came about when I had my first daughter, Renee, back in 2003. I went looking for a blanket that was very common back home in Australia. To my surprise, it didn't exist here. I thought every Aussie can't have this wrong, and figured that if I introduced it to the American market, American parents would respond to it the same way. There were many challenges when I first started the business. I was also initially working a full-time job whilst I was building Aiden and A, so there was a hell of a lot of sleep deprivation, given that I already at that point had 3 of my 4 children. I would wake up at 6:30, look after my girls, go to my real job at the Economist Group back then, and get home about 6 o'clock. And then when my daughters went to bed at about 8:30, I would then start working on Aiden and A, and I would do that from about 8:30 at night till about 3 or 4 in the morning. But the biggest thing was definitely the access to capital. Initially, I did go door to door. It was a classic entrepreneurial story. So I've got a 20-something year background in sales. So that part wasn't daunting to me. That was pretty easy. Customer service is the most important role in this entire company, and we're rewarded with hundreds of thousands of mothers taking to social media to tell everybody how wonderful our company is and what we stand for and the experience that they've had with us. If you stay authentic and you don't deviate from that authenticity, you'll be successful.
Okay, so we find that in this case, the founder found that there is a need in the market which she had to fulfill, but she had to work. It is not that she is compromised on something. She was working with a regular company and also doing her business till she moved over to this full time. Entrepreneurs should be highly energetic, motivated, with passion. He should be resourceful. Willingness they should be there to improve. Now, when will you improve? You should be able to listen to everyone. In management, when we talk of business communication, we say active listening is very important. Many a times we miss out on good ideas. Why? Because we do not listen. So there should be a strong determination in the manager to succeed, or the leader or entrepreneur to succeed. If you don't have that, then in that case it becomes very difficult to ensure that we will be able to take it forward. So it is necessary that the entrepreneur should be having that dream. It should have that passion. He should be able to think in terms of how do I take it forward. Look at what are the aspects which he has got to focus on, whether it is the aspect of risk which he has got to take, whether it's the aspect of finances which he has got to take, whether it's the aspect of the integrity issues which have comes into picture. Bhagwan used to say quality is very significant, and we've got to stick to that. If you're talking in terms of a business, sometimes what happens is we start with a bang, we give the best quality for the first few months, few days, few weeks. People start coming, then we forget about quality. We think in terms of quantity. This compromise never works. It may work for a short period of time till a better competitor or a better person who's offering a better product comes next to you. Automatically, everything else is gone. So that's why it's very important. How do you set up your business? You'll have to think in terms of your target market. Like, for example, when Jabong came into India, of course, today it is no longer in existence because it has been bought over and then extinguished. But Jabong came into India, they identified who's going to be their target market and what's the location, whether it's a brick and mortar or it's going to be an online facility. And very soon you found that they rose up to a level which was very significant. Location matters. Like, for example, if you want to start a food truck, the place where you're going to place your offline your truck matters a lot, whether it is a commercial street, whether it is Brigade Road or a MG Road in Bangalore, where you're going to open your outlet, or versus, of course, a mall or a place which is in the suburban area. So these are things which will define what your business is, what type of product that you're dealing with, what is the risk which you're willing to take, what are the sources of finance that you have got, what is the marketing channel you're going to adopt for your product. Do you have the domain expertise? It is said, like, for example, there was a young kid who was coming with a cup of water to the father and saying, "This is tea." And the father very happily was drinking it and appreciating the kid. The mother came into the scene. And then told the father, you know, what are you doing? No, I'm just enjoying what my daughter is giving me. Then the mother said, do you know where can she reach for water? Then the father was clueless. Then she said she's going to the toilet pot, picking up water from there and coming and giving it to you. So this is where domain expertise is very necessary. If you are not able to think, if you're not able to understand the business, you don't have a technical know-how of the business, or you don't have any background and you're not willing to listen, it becomes very difficult for you to run a business. You have to be an entrepreneur. You have to have some amount of domain experience. Like, for example, you want to start something on electrical, then you have to have a background in electrical. You might be a degree holder or at least a practical knowledge which drives you to reach the next levels. So why do businesses fail? Because they don't have a unique model. They copy something which is there in the market and they try to say that this is something which is achievable. So Bhagwan says, for your business to succeed, you should have what is called as Trikarna Shuddhi, unity in thought, word and deed. So this is where Bhagwan says, when there is unity in thought, word and deed, it makes the person Mahatma. There will be a lot of respect for that person in the society. If, on the other hand, if there is no harmony between thought, word and deed, then it makes him a person who can't be trusted. So that's why if you want to do well in business, please ensure that we go with the concept of Trikarna Shuddhi. It gives us great amount of joy to say that this institute has housed many people whom you will also be interacting in the next day or two about what is the type of business that they have gotten. A lot of entrepreneurs who have been who have derived their source of energy from Bhagwan. I wish many more people join in this. Thank you very much. Sairam.
Creation of any business occurs at three conceptual levels: what entrepreneurs do, how they think, their mindset, and disposition. Thank you, sir, for bringing an understanding that the skills and disposition of entrepreneur affect and power the decisions as well as actions of business decisions. Thank you, sir, for lucidly explaining to us the origin of the word entrepreneurship and the various qualities of being an entrepreneur based on the expositions of Bhagwan. Thank you again for highlighting that entrepreneurship is a combination of mindset of an entrepreneur and action of a leader. Thank you again for sharing inspiring stories and interesting video of entrepreneurs to emphasize that successful entrepreneurs proactively develop behaviors that empower them to anticipate problems, overcome adversity, recognize opportunities, organize resources, and take action to build ideas into strategy. Thank you again, sir, for your insightful words. Next in the schema of this virtual conference is the keynote address by Professor Dr. C.B. Sanjeevi. Dr. Sanjeevi assumed charge as the 11th Vice Chancellor of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning on 23rd of November 2019. Dr. Sanjeevi has been at the Karolinska Institute, a medical university in Stockholm, Sweden, since 1989. Karolinska Institute is known for selecting and awarding Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine, and the institute was established in 1810. He heads the Diabetes Immunology Research Group at the Center for Molecular Medicine and is affiliated to the Department of Medicine. His group's focus is on autoimmune diabetes. Dr. Sanjeevi has won several awards, and the most notable one is the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award from the Government of India for eminence in one's field or outstanding work, which has enhanced India's prestige in the country of residence. He received the award on 9th of January 2017 in Bangalore from the President of India. It is the highest honor conferred on persons of Indian origin by the Government of India in recognition of their achievements both in India and abroad. He is the editor for the Immunology of Diabetes series, volumes 1 to 5, published by the Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences, and served in the editorial board of several journals like Diabetologia, Human Immunology, Current Diabetes Reviews, ILITS, etc. Dr. Sanjeevi also served in the Council of the European Association for the Study of Diabetes and has won several awards in the field of diabetes from renowned research foundations. He has been a visiting professor at several universities. From 2000 to 2012, Dr. Sanjeevi has served as the Karolinska Institute Scientific Coordinator for India and promoted academy industry, and industry partnership between Karolinska Institute and India, as well as Sweden and India. Since 2006, he has been senior advisor to Business Sweden, an agency that belongs to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Government of Sweden. He is also senior advisor to the Innovation Office of Karolinska Institute. Let us now listen to the keynote address of Professor Dr. C.B. Sanjeevi.
Sairam, my humble pranams at the lotus feet of Bhagwan. It gives me a great pleasure to talk in this wonderful conference organized by the Department of Management. And this conference is organized to celebrate the 50 years of the Anantapur campus. So we have quite a good list of speakers, and I am privileged to talk about the model at Karolinska Institute, which is going to be the topic of my talk. The growth of the startups and incubators are the story of Karolinska Institute. So I'm going to highlight how we started, how we progressed, and where we are over this period of time. So the growth of startups and incubators started sometime in 1993. And in this process, we have gone through a lot of ups and downs, and now we have become world leaders in this particular area. So, to start about Karolinska Institute, as Padma Lalita was mentioning, this is an institution that started in 1810. It is about 211 years old now, and this institute now has 22 departments because we had to fuse quite a few departments and make them one large ones. And each of these departments have several research groups. And put together, there are 600 research groups at Karolinska Institute, and each research group will constitute a head of the research group and several people who might be 3 to 30 in each research group. So there are about 3,500 researchers, including 330 professors and 2,000 PhD students. On any given year, there will be 200 to 250 PhD students who will be graduating from the Karolinska Institute. So the institute also offers undergraduate, postgraduate education in nursing, dentistry, as well as medicine. So we have about 5,500 students. And much of the research that the research groups perform are all raised from research grants, and this total to about more than 800 million US dollars. And the research carried out at Karolinska Institute, in addition to the education that is offered, and the research constitute about 84% of the Karolinska Institute. So Karolinska Institute is a medical university. Since it is a medical university, it needs to have the hospitals affiliated with the institute in order to train the young students in clinical medicine. So the Karolinska Institute is located in the north of Stockholm, and adjacent to the Karolinska Institute is the Karolinska Hospital campus. So we have several hospitals like Danderyd Hospital, Söder Hospital, Huddinge Hospital, which we call it as the South Campus, and the Saint Erik Eye Hospital as a part of the Karolinska Institute, where our students go and get the training. So Karolinska Institute, as Padma Lalita said, is also selecting and awarding the Nobel Prize for Medicine. This has been happening since 1901, and there have been exceedingly distinguished people who have won the awards. So as soon as you enter the main entrance of the Karolinska Institute, the building on your left is the Nobel Forum. That is where the Nobel Committee functions. And the building looks small from the surface, but it has 2 or 3 floors below the ground. That is where the Nobel archives are stored. All the nominations going back from 1901 are stored there. The committee meets there, they decide, and we also have a big conference room and an auditorium where the announcements are all made. What you see in the middle, as soon as you enter the door, you see the foyer. That is where you walk through. At the end of the foyer, you have the auditorium where the announcements for the Nobel Prizes are made. But what you see as the assembly hall is in the first floor, which is designed by an Italian architect, which has a large table that can seat about 40 people around the table. That is where the committee needs to debate and discuss and decide who should win the Nobel Prize. So that we call in Swedish a sessionssalen, and that is where most of the historic decisions are made. So when it comes to Karolinska Institute, since so much money is invested in research, there should be something that comes out of research. And this is the most valuable part that should help and benefit the society. So we need to build businesses around the research that could benefit the society, and the process of building this requires quite a lot of innovation strategies. So we should not just be teachers, we should learn how to be business people also. So in the coming slides, I'll talk about the corporate and the entrepreneurship activity of the Karolinska Institute. So the vision of the Karolinska Institute is to significantly contribute to the improvement of the human health. So most of our research is all directed in that line, and quite a lot of research that is done there currently are all translational in nature, where whatever you do should get translated into a clinical laboratory kit or clinical medicine or drug target or platform that will be extremely helpful in bringing a lot of new ideas to the market that will benefit the society. Because as we keep progressing in life, we are encountering new things in life, and new things is leading to new diseases, and that requires new research and progress. So the goals of the Karolinska Institute is the research results should lead to innovations and the practical applications that can be implemented within the healthcare sector. This was a part of the strategy of the Karolinska Institute, which was written in 2018. A strong research in the whole area of medicine is so valuable, and this research is divided into different categories: cell and molecular structural biology, immunology, infection and inflammation, reproductive and developmental biology, stem cells, regenerative and reparative medicines, cancer, hematology, circulation and respiration, and on and on. So all of them have become such huge disciplines. There is so much that needs to be done because we are getting into micro aspects of everything in the human body. So when you go into the cell, you not only restrict yourself, you go into the nucleus, you go and find how things are working there, how information is translated, how it is transferred to the cytoplasm, etc. There's so much complexity. And when you look at a human being, you're totally unaware of the complexity that is going behind how that human being functions normally with that much of complexity, all working in such unison and good order that keeps you in good health. But we don't do a good thing for our own body because we abuse our body. We indulge in smoking, we indulge in drinking alcohol, we indulge in overeating. All that puts a lot of stress on your human body. Your cells in the body still try to survive and keep you in good health. But at some time point, they break down. When they break down, that is where the problem starts. And when the problem starts, we need to have solutions to fix the problem. And there are problems in all the disciplines that are listed in the slides. So how does this innovation help, and how do we bring out this innovation from all the research that are carried out at Karolinska Institute? So the mission of the Karolinska Innovation System, which is a pipeline that has been created in 1993, has several aspects that are taken into consideration for the smooth flow of ideas from the clinical laboratory or research laboratory to the market. So to realize the potential of KA as a medical university to deliver novel products, services, and knowledge for the health citizens and the overall benefit of the society. Next slide. So take a leading role in developing Sweden's competitiveness in life science, help secure and strengthen the position of Karolinska Institute as a world-leading medical university with a global reputation for outreach and impact. Just recently, the Shanghai ranking system was released, and Karolinska was rated at this number 6th in the world as the best medical university. And what we have above us is Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, and a few of those famous universities. So all this contribution that had gone in setting things up and making them work is the one that really raises the reputation of the institute to be a world-class institute. So in order for us to achieve all these things, there are only three important aspects here. So it is what is called as knowledge triangle. So you have research, you have education, and you have innovation. All of them feed into each other. And if we get this ready and set it up in a proper way, this will function with the most efficient way. Whereas you have the education, because education and new knowledge comes from research, and research adds to the innovation, and a lot of innovation comes back into education for teaching the subsequent generation. So in order to address the strategy towards more entrepreneurial Karolinska Institute, the place ownership and entrepreneurship in the center of the knowledge triangle. So that's important for us to know how to place it. Recognize the needs of the customers and the patients. Overcome the silo mentality between the innovation actors. Create ecosystems where research, education, and business partners meet and flourish. So scientists in Sweden, this is something that is phenomenal for Swedish ecosystem, because in Sweden, as governed by the law passed in the parliament, the scientist to make the discovery owns the discovery, not the institution. If you go to an American university or a British university or many universities in India, if you take that, it is the university that owns the ownership of the scientific discovery, not the individual scientist. Here it is the opposite. So this gives enormous motivation for the scientist to go for the innovation and try to ensure that the innovation is patented, and the patent is made into a startup. Startup is growing over a period of time from seed capital to early growth capital to venture capital. So the university employees own the rights to the patentable inventions and the research findings. That is in the parliamentary language called as professor's privilege. The right to invention, research results can be transferred in agreements, and it is the individual who can decide whether they would like to seek the help of the university to do that, or whether they can take the help of the industry partners to do that. So the scientist who makes the discovery not only owns the discovery, he controls the discovery that he wants to really take care of and share it to the market. So one portal to find what you need at the Karolinska Institute is created called Innovation Support for You. So in this innovation support for you, we have Karolinska Institute that houses the innovation office that gives free advice and helps the scientist with intellectual property negotiations. So at the Karolinska Institute, we have unit for bio-entrepreneurship that trains the, that trains the scientist for entrepreneurial thing, which is what I keep calling it is the MBA program in life science. So two people from the unit of bioentrepreneurship are talking in this program later today. One is Carl Johan Sundberg and Hanna Johansson. So this is the aspect that is addressing the innovation part at the Karolinska Institute side, which is the university part. Now, Karolinska Institute, in order to translate and transfer the innovation into a pathway where it reaches as a commercial product, they have set up what is called as Karolinska Institute Holding Company. That is the best way they can do it, because Karolinska Institute is a government-owned institution. It is a non-profit institution. It cannot indulge in for-profit activity. So the best way that the law allows us to do it is to create something called as Karolinska Institute Holding Company. And under the holding company, you have several companies. One of them is Karolinska Innovations Private Limited, which is a business development incubator. Some of the ideas that end up in IP, and those IPs are created into companies by the Karolinska Innovations RB. RB is like private limited, used in India. So these companies, if the Karolinska Innovations spend the money to help establish the company, whatever they are spending, they will take certain percentage of ownership on the company. If they don't spend the money, if the investigator takes up much of the work, he owns much of the company. So there is certain kind of an agreement that you can have on how much the percentage of ownership is going to be. So Karolinska Innovation RB is an important aspect for translating ideas into companies. But you'll have to house all these companies somewhere. And this is where the Karolinska Institute Science Park comes, which provides lab and office spaces. But many of these companies also require funding. And this funding is coming from Karolinska Development Private Limited. And this Karolinska Development Private Limited is a venture cap company, which is also owned by the Karolinska Institute, that has a first right of refusal with Karolinska Innovation, so that they get to see which are all the innovations, what kind of investments that they can make in these companies coming out of the Karolinska Innovation. So there is a place where the ideas are flowing into the innovation system. The funding is received into the innovation system. The in-house expertise and external consultants are all taken into consideration for the innovation system to grow and flourish. So when the innovation system is growing and flourishing, there are several ways by which you can exit from the innovation system. One form of exit is the industry collaboration. Another is the increased funding that you can seek both from the private players and the government players. Then you have the startups and out licensing that can come out of the innovation system. Then you have, of course, collaboration with universities, public bodies and other organizations that can take your innovation forward. So innovation could be medically relevant, or it could be socially relevant also. And implementation in the healthcare is also very important, because some of these innovative companies are formed because there is a need in the society for certain gaps that needs to be filled by some of the innovation that comes in. So there is a lot of social aspects also added to it. Next slide, please. So the key innovation tasks that are pursued at Karolinska Institute include the implement a new innovation governance structure, foster and manage strategic partnerships with industry, reassign and integrate innovation support functions at Karolinska Institute, and of course align Karolinska Institute support functions with those at Karolinska Hospital and local health authorities, because some of the problems that we have to address might be directly important and beneficial to the local health authority who are in charge for the healthcare within that particular area. So we need to also build with investment partners a KA-based proof of concept seed fund. And this is something that is available from the Karolinska Development Private Limited. But government also provides this kind of a funding The agency that governs the seed capital funding is called Vinnova in Sweden, and the similar kind of support in India is coming from Department of Biotechnology company that is created called BIRAC, which belongs to the Department of Biotechnology in India. So there are a lot of aspects that we need to address, but we need to communicate into the organization and to the outside world. Sometimes within the organization, within the university, there are so many people who have large gaps in their knowledge. So we need to educate them and tell them, look, these are all the potentials. You need to raise up and see the potentials that we can come out with that is in the benefit of the university, so that those people with such lack of knowledge could really raise up to that level so that they can perform what is important for the university. So the most important thing here is to define and deliver the key performance indicator. So I call that as KPIs. So how do you measure output and key performance indicators? So the number of innovative medical services that have to be improved, infiltrated, impacted. Number of financial volume and tech transfer deals. So we need to have enough set of people to help. Either it could be in-house or it could be hired from outside. Number of companies set up and monitored by them. The extension of existing strategic corporate partnerships. So we need to look at all aspects and build partnerships, which is what I was doing in terms of academy partnerships, academy industry partnerships, and industry partnerships. When it comes to industry, the industry that is created in the institution, which are the startups, need to grow, and this kind of growth can happen if you find partners that may not be in Sweden, but I was bringing Indian partners into the picture so that the idea could be transferred to India and we can make an affordable innovation out of it in this particular partnership. So there are a lot of win-win situations that we can really bring about in terms of what we can do, and key performance indicators help you a lot in that particular direction. Next slide. So the using KI partners and alliances to support the innovation, it becomes very important. So if you are, say for instance, this is Stockholm. The Stockholm Regional Health Authority is an important player. Karolinska University Hospital is an important player, and we need to really partner. So when we want to look forward in terms of science, the government had created an institution called Science for Life Laboratory, shortly called the Sci-Life Lab, where it is a technology resource center where the scientists working there, if you go and give them a problem, they'll give you the solution, and it is funded by the government. And this is an accelerator for progress in coming out with lots of ideas and technologies and solutions that could go to the market. So the government is funding at the tune of about 400 million kronas in order to ensure that the ideas are translated for products for healthcare through the technology that is available and generated in this particular area. And this is Science for Life Laboratory, situated inside the Karolinska Institute Science Park, so that some of the small companies sitting there will greatly benefit from the resource that is available, not the monetary resource, but the technological resource. A joint research center on the cardiovascular and metabolic diseases established in partnership with AstraZeneca. Astra was a very big Swedish company. When it got merged with Zeneca, it became AstraZeneca, but much of the research infrastructure that Astra used in Sweden are still in Sweden. So there is a partnership with Astra, so that there's a two-way beneficial effect where Astra can benefit from some of the work, and we can benefit from some of the translated technologies that are available in Astra. So this is a win-win partnership. So we enter into a lot of potential partnership with big companies, both for the benefit of the university, but the benefit of the institution, like a private institution, and the most important is benefit of the nation. So the Scandinavian hub of EIT Health, which is the information technology on healthy life and active aging, was established. And here is what we have started to do at SSIHL, where we are trying to create artificial intelligence solutions. And one of the work done by Uday Kiran now is to provide artificial intelligence based resources available to elderly people in villages, so that they can get the support for geriatric help from our hospital. So these kind of ideas could be pursued under this particular center. Next slide. So here, when you have the innovation, when you have the science park, when you have the company, you need to have something very important is the industry partnership. You need to grow. You might not have all the money. Somebody else might have the money. So somebody else who has the money needs to come in, step in and support you. If this synergy is facilitated by some of the organizations, either it is government created or the institution itself through its network creates, is going to give huge value addition in taking the idea forward to the people. The industry partnership strategy involves employees. We want the most qualified employees, so we cannot compromise there. We go for the best. Then we need have the infrastructure, so we need to continuously modernize the Karolinska Institute, which is happening constantly, and we need to have collaboration, which is very important, and for joint strategies. So when we had Professor Panchanathan visiting us at SSIHL, this was what he was referring to as mantra for progress: collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. And that is going to take you to another level, because you have limited knowledge. Somebody else has some other knowledge that you do not have. And when you join together, the kind of knowledge, new knowledge that you can create can be massive. So with all these put together, of course, the most important is funding. And when you have such a rich ecosystem and a lot of things are growing at different pace, finance become easy, because people come and see all this growth that is happening and they try to help in bringing these companies. But one philosophy that we have is we cannot expect all company to perform within a period of time. So what we say is it's like sowing seeds. You sow 1,000 seeds, you nurture them, you water them regularly, maybe 100 will grow. That doesn't mean the remaining 900 is useless. The 100 that grows, maybe 10 of them will bear fruit, flower and fruit. And that for 10, you need to have the 1,000. Maybe the remaining 900 that didn't grow in the expected time will grow second year or third year or fourth year. So we need to have certain patience, because each company has certain set of problems. And for them to overcome the problems and grow, they require little larger time, some require little shorter time, and all these things become very important in terms of growth and progress. Next slide. So the value of industry partnership becomes very important. So we need to build excellence in research, education and innovation. That is what the university should do. Create opportunities and choice by providing knowledge sharing, access to unique expertise and competences, education and training of personnel, which is very important, that has to happen repeatedly and regularly, resources like finance and infrastructure. All these can be obtained once you know that you are good. People will come to you and seek how they can contribute, because there is also something takeaway for them. So attract global expertise and investment. So when you become a hub, Sweden, for instance, is the #1 innovation country in the world, because for the number of IPs you produce for certain number of population, this is the leading in the whole world. And if you take Sweden and compare it with other countries in the neighborhood, Finland, Denmark, Norway are also following that, are all in the top 5. That is because they have set up the governance system in such a way, it facilitates a lot of process also to happen in that direction. So there is a lot of global interest. Many big pharma companies are all having their offices in Karolinska Institute. We have office by Johnson & Johnson. We have office by Novartis. We have office by Astra. All this is because they find it's a rich ground for them to hunt and pick ideas that they can want and take it to the industry. So and it also helps maintain and improve Sweden's competitiveness in life science. Next slide. So CREI provides multiple opportunities for partnering in all the different areas that we had shown earlier. Next slide, please. So in terms of Karolinska Institute partnering, there are several models that we can follow. It could be a collaborative model based on mutual interest and joint benefit. This is the win-win situation that we should talk about. Duration could be 3 to 5 years with options for renewal. Structured and governed joint research committees, alliance managers support. These are all something that we need to include in our partnership when we make partnership with some of the industry partners. So we need to agree on how to share IPs, how to share revenues, and this requires some of the legal support that we might need in order to get the best agreement possible. Next slide, please. So we have different kinds of partners. Some of them could be strategic partnerships. Some of them could be researcher-initiated partnerships, where the institution does not get involved. The researcher actually goes and meets the right kind of people himself according to his convenience in terms of trust, and then builds up his own initiatives. And of course, the innovation office and the commercialization aspects helps them in a big way. Next slide. So some of the recently established partnerships include AstraZeneca, Novo Nordisk, Roche, Moderna Therapeutics. Moderna is the one that has come out with vaccine for coronavirus. Janssen and Janssen, Johnson and Johnson, and Ferring Pharma. These are all world's big players, and some of their annual sales exceed several $billions. And these kind of partners are so important for you to take the idea and bring it to the market. And your ecosystem should be rich that allows these partners to come in and take advantage of the innovation and discovery. And this is an example where Johnson and Johnson has created an office, and we can go and talk to them. They will be able to provide you what kinds of help. If there is a commercial angle, they will try and help you in getting the commercial angle also available to you. Next slide. So basically, when you have an innovation ecosystem, you need to innovate. That means you need to have thousands of ideas that are patentable, convertible, translatable. But not all of them could be translated or converted. So there should be an evaluation process. So from 1,000, you probably end up with a few hundreds, and from 100, you need to go through this funnel where there is a selection process, a development, and commercialization angle. And all this at the end, if you get 10 ideas maturing out of 1,000 ideas, that's a huge success. And of course, when you want to exit the model, you don't stay all the way till the end until commercialization. So you need to take up different kind of alliances and partnerships alongside. And some of it could be licensing deal also. So there are so many exit options that are available for the ideas to take up. So if you see since 2003, Kalinska Development, which is a venture cap company that is funding many of these startups, has been involved in 57 startup companies out of more than 1,200 ideas screened, and they have raised more than $300 million. And now Kalinska Development is also listed in the Stockholm Stock Exchange. So the opening up of SMEs and biotech on 2 Kalinska campuses helped advance this in a very big way. Next slide, please. So we have this North Campus. What you see here at the Karolinska University Hospital at the top is the hospital campus, which will probably 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer in either direction. And there is a road in between. On this side of the road is the Karolinska Institute campus. What you see as a building called Aula Medica is a big auditorium. That is where the Nobel lectures are held. So all the resources that are needed are all provided indoors, so that individual companies that are sitting in the science park need not have to invest in machines or creating some of those technologies. So they can go pay for it, get the technology, and move on with that particular product development in the most efficient way. So there is a big highway going that is getting underground next to the Karolinska Institute. On the other side of the highway, you can see a lot of buildings. And all these buildings are commercial players who have come and put up those buildings. And many of the big pharma companies are housed in those buildings. And these buildings also have apartments that will house the scientists who are working not only in the companies, but also in the hospital as well as in the institute. Next slide, please. So this is the South Campus in the south of Stockholm called the Huddinge Hospital. They have another science park called Novum Research Park, where much of the startups and ideas generated from the South Campus go into that particular science park. And there is a lot of interaction between the Novum Science Park and Southern Campus versus the Karolinska Institute Science Park in the Northern Campus. So this is the Karolinska Institute Science Park, which is adjacent to the Karolinska Institute campus, which is 3 oval buildings. And in this building, one of the startup that started more than 25 years ago has now grown so big to occupy 1 full building. So this is a company called BioVitrum. So there are a lot of space available. A lot of employees can work there. And the investment in the building has been something like 11.7 billion euro over the period of 12 years. And the kind of things that you get out of it is several times bigger. So it is worthy of the investment that has been put into the Karolinska Institute science parks to help and support the ecosystem. So there is a value proposition. So the life science ecosystem, business enabler for the environment, this has been set up in the university environment. It has taken over 25 years to mature into something phenomenal. So the life science specific support is available. The infrastructural services are available, all within one area where you have the institute, where you have the science park, where you have innovation taking place, where you have clinical support that you can seek from the hospital side, in all one small area. So this makes it easy for crosstalk and getting the things moving forward and helping things grow and reach the market. Next slide, please. So these are the infrastructural services that are available in the science park. This is what every science park should do, so that the companies are housed in the science park need not have to go and find many of the things themselves. They can hire all these services and make it easy. So you might see that there is also a service for massage for people who are working in their office. Next slide, please. So the life science specific support includes in the science park a symposium and networking activities. We have mentoring program, we have investment platform, we have strategic tool to support drug development, information and communication toolkit. This is extremely important because we need to be highly connected. Next slide, please. So the R&D based biotech science park is one of the important aspects in the growth of innovation and bringing products to the healthcare market. Now we are having 86 companies in the Karolinska Institute Science Park under different therapeutic areas. Some of them are R&D platforms, some of them are chasing therapeutic ideas. We have diagnostics, we have healthcare, we have medical technology. So the pie is ready, getting bigger and bigger, and the number of companies that are populating this pie is also growing. So if you look at the therapeutic areas, you can see inflammation and infection constitute 20%, 27%, genetic metabolic disease 17%, oncology 17%, central nervous system 7%, cardiovascular 5%, etc. So sometimes you find oncology growing bigger, sometimes you see the inflammation and infection growing bigger, because now in the corona pandemic, that segment is probably getting bigger and bigger. So how old are the companies? When you look at these charts or the circles that you see, the bigger is the circle, is the higher in the number of companies. So the companies that have exceeded 15 years of their lifetime, there are 11 companies sitting in the science park, and there are only 12 companies who are less than 4 years old. So you have different companies with different age of those companies sitting in the science park, and you can see many of these companies are growing in size, not just the number as it is depicted in the slide. So an excellent life science ecosystem includes innovation support, availability of core facilities, and availability of hospital infrastructure nearby, the investors, the industry support, small and medium enterprises. Of course, the most fundamental thing is education and research. If we get these two things straight, all of them will fall in place. And this is valuable for setting up the ecosystem for a flourishing life science innovation ecosystem, startup ecosystem, which is very important for any country. And this has been, I have spoken, I have given this talk even to the Ministry of Science and Technology, organized conferences. So we need to create such units. And unfortunately in India, when we have a university, the university and research institutes are far away. The hospitals are in different places. So to have them all in one place, we still don't have one particular institution that covers everything. So we need to re-strategize everything and do it. And these are all the companies that are sitting, created at Karolinska Institute, that are sitting in the Karolinska Science Park, that are supported by the Karolinska Development. Now we also have an Indian pharma company called Cadila Pharmaceuticals, which has come there and set up an office. And they are doing a lot of collaboration with many of the companies that are sitting inside the science park. So this has taken some time for us to evolve over a period of time. So there is enormous amount of knowledge available in terms of how to do it, how best to do it, so that you don't make the mistakes that people had made. So I had been part of this all the way through, and it gives me immense pleasure to see the whole thing grow. It's like your child that is growing, you know. And if you see your child mature into a young, nice adult with a good job, nothing brings you more joy than that. That's the kind of satisfaction you get. But this ecosystem requires a lot of knowledge, support, and we can get all those things. And I hope in my lifetime, or at least when I'm here as a Vice Chancellor, I could help recreate some of these things here. So we have the best set of brains in SSIHR. We have the best kind of knowledge available here. And what many of these people don't have, that we have Bhagavan above us. They may not have that. So we need to really take advantage of these things and really do our best. And with all this background and all the learning process that has gone through, I will do everything I can. But still, we need to overcome obstacles that are different in nature here and compared to the obstacles that you might face in countries like Sweden. Next slide, please. So for all these things, one of the important things that I wanted to describe in this particular slide is called as tools of science. Tools of Science was a project, and this project included mapping the talent in Stockholm. So you might be good in something, somebody else might be good in something else. You need to know who is good in what and put them all in some order. So there is an academic competence and the industry competence all there. And if you go toolsofscience.se, you find every competence available within the Stockholm area. So it is the click of a button, you get hold of the right person, talk to the right person, and get your problems addressed and solved, so that lot of things could be achieved in a limited span of time instead of going and searching for people and talent. So this Tools of Science includes Stockholm, which houses several universities, not just Karolinska Institute, and there are a lot of tools available, quite a lot of life science companies available. And one of the unique things is that we have biobanks where all the samples collected from the patients are labeled and stored. So that is enormous resource that we keep on adding over a period of time in order to make it richer and richer and richer. And Tools of Science is a computer-based system where you can find all the talent that you need. Next slide, please. So with this, I end my talk. I am extremely thankful to Dr. Suma and the Department of Management for giving me this opportunity to talk. And this gives me a great pleasure to show a story that has been successful, a story in which I was a part of. And hopefully we can learn some lessons from these stories and see how much we can do in our own ecosystem. Which is little bit in its infancy, so we have to grow, we have to adopt a lot of things. And one thing I feel that we can do is to add Swami's values to all that is being developed in the innovation ecosystem. So with this, I thank Bhagwan and I thank all of you for listening to me, and thank you very much. Sairam.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the inspiring growth story of Karolinska Institute, the various dimensions, value proposition, and several collaborative strategies for turning business idea into executable action. The success story of Karolinska Institute resonates with the popular saying, success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Sir's talk motivated aspiring entrepreneurs to risk more than others think is safe and dream more than others think is practical. Listening to Sir's talk gave a metaphorical representation of how entrepreneurs test, work, and rework their offering till it resonates with the targeted goals. Thank you, sir, for taking your time out of your busy schedule and addressing us today with an insightful talk. Now, I pray to Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, the founder chancellor of Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, to bless us all with his divine discourse.
ప్రేమ స్వరూపులారా, మార్గంలో ప్రవేశించాలి.
Go on the right path.
ఈ సత్యాన్ని కొంతవరకు వ్యాపారంలో చాలా నష్టం కలుగుతుంది.
Sometimes there is loss in business.
కాదు కాదు, అది చాలా పొరపాటు.
That is the wrong thing.
సత్యంతో మనం ప్రారంభం చేస్తే ప్రారంభంలో కొంతవరకు లాస్ కలగవచ్చు.
You may think that when you start with truth, you'll always have some problem in the beginning.
క్రమక్రమేణా పెరుగుతూ దీనికి విలువ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది.
Gradually, there will be a great increase in its value.
అయితే ఇక్కడ మీరు ఈ సత్య ధర్మ శాంతి ప్రేమను ఏ రీతిగా వినియోగించాలి?
In this way, how these four Satya Dharma Shanti Prema, how have you put into practice?
చక్కగా మీరు గుర్తించి మీ మేనేజర్స్కు, మీ మేనేజింగ్ డైరెక్టర్స్కు చక్కగా స్మూత్ మాటలతో మనం చక్కగా ప్రచారం చేయాలి.
Students always speak in a very soft, nice, loving tone to your managing directors, managers, all the truth.
సత్యం ఏ రీతిగా వ్యాపారంలో మనం ప్రవేశపెట్టాలి?
How should we put truth into practice in business?
అనగా మన సత్యాన్ని మన అకౌంట్స్ లో, ఆడిటింగ్ లో ఈ సత్యాన్ని ప్రవేశపెట్టాలి.
We must put truth in our accounts and in our auditing.
ఇది కొంతవరకు కష్టమే.
I know that it is causing difficulty.
సత్యంలో కూడా ఒక నియమాన్ని పాటించాలి. నియమాన్ని, లిమిట్.
In truth also there is the limit here.
అయితే ఎంతవరకు మనకు ప్రాఫిట్, దాన్ని ఒక నిర్ణయం చేసుకోవాలి.
Therefore, whatever is the limit to the profit, you must achieve.
10%, 15%, 5% నేను ప్రాఫిట్ కోసం పనిచేస్తున్నాను అని నువ్వు సత్యం చెప్పు, తప్పు లేదు.
You must clear say there's nothing wrong in saying I am working for 10%, 5% profit.
బిగినింగ్ లోపల మనం కొంచెం లాస్ వస్తుంది, కష్టం అవుతుంది.
In the beginning, we may have loss, we may have problems.
క్రమేణా ఇది పెరుగుతూ పోయేటప్పటికి అందరు కూడా ఆనందిస్తారు, ఒక కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ అందులో బయలుదేరుతుంది.
Gradually, people will get confidence and be happy to deal with you.
మనం రాసేటువంటి లెక్కల్లో సత్యాన్ని మనం నిరూపించాలి.
In the accounts which you write, put the truth in it.
ఈ సత్యమైనటువంటి దీనిగా లేకుండా పోతే అనేక ట్రబుల్స్ మనకు వస్తుంది.
If you don't write the truth in the account, all kinds of problems come to you.
ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ మీకు చాలా బాగా తెలుసు.
You know these problems very well.
మనలో ఏదైనా కానీ లోపం ఉందింటే తక్షణమే ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ ఆఫీసర్స్ గుర్తిస్తారు.
If there is some defect in it, immediately the income tax officers know about it.
ఆ గుర్తించేటప్పటికి ఇంకా మన బలహీనత పూర్తి నశించిపోతుంది.
As soon as they know, you become immediately weakness. You become weak and fragile.
కనుక ఈ వీక్నెస్ మనం ఏమాత్రం అవకాశం లేకుండా సత్యాన్ని మనం చాటుదాం.
We should never give room for this weakness and go only with the truth.
నీ ప్రాఫిట్ నువ్వు తీసుకో, బిజినెస్ లో ప్రాఫిట్ ఉండాలి.
You must get your profit. There must be profit in business.
కానీ అధికంగా నీవు ఏమాత్రం ఆశించవద్దు.
But do not seek and desire excess profit.
ఇది కేవలం సొసైటీ వర్క్ గా నీవు భావించు.
You must think that this is a work for society.
కనుక సత్యాన్ని ఈ రకమైన లెక్కల్లో మనం నిరూపించాలి.
This is the way to put truth into our account.
ధర్మము.
The second is dharma.
ఈ ధర్మం అనేటువంటి దాన్ని మార్కెట్ లో మనం ఏ రీతిగా చూడాలి, దీనికి ఎంత విలువ ఇవ్వాలి, ఏ విధంగా దీన్ని మనం వీటిని ఉపయోగించుకోవాలి అని సమర్థంగా తీసుకుంటూ రావాలి.
We must understand the dharma is to know how this is to be used in the market, how it is to be applied.
నా బాధలు నన్ను ఎంత కష్టపెడతాయో వర్కర్ బాధలు కూడా అంత ఉంటుంది కదా అని రెండింటిని కంపేర్ చేసుకుంటూ రావాలి.
We should understand the way I am striving, the worker is also striving in the same way.
నాకు ఈ దుఃఖమే లభిస్తే నేను ఎంత బాధపడేవాడిని, కనుక తాను కూడా అంత బాధ ఉంటుంది అని తన బాధకు ఆ వర్కర్ బాధకు కొంతవరకు కంపేర్ చేసుకోవాలి.
When we get sorrow, we suffer like this. And similarly, we must understand the worker also.
నాకు ఎంత ప్రీతియో వాడి తల్లి కూడా వాడికి అంత ప్రీతి కదా.
The way we love our mother, he also loves his mother.
కనుక ఈ రకమైనటువంటి యొక్క విషయాన్ని చక్కగా మనం సమన్వయం చేసుకుంటూ రావాలి.
We must put into practice this kind of intense feeling.
మార్కెట్ లోపల కూడా మనకి ఎక్కువ ఇది కావాలని ఒక కాంపిటీషన్ లోపల అనవసరమైనటువంటి ఇంటిగా బయలుదేరి ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ అంతా స్టార్ట్ చేయకూడదు.
We should not create gyrations in the market in order to get excess profit.
కనుక ఈ విధమైన దాంట్లో మనం ధర్మాన్ని పాటించాలి.
This is how we must put work in with dharma.
Next in the schema of this virtual conference is the address by the guest of honor. We are immensely fortunate today to have with us Dr. Renu Swaroop to address all of us. And I deem it my privilege to introduce the guest of honor of this two-day virtual conference, Stand Up, Startup and Scale Up. Dr. Renu Swaroop is the Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. Dr. Renu Swaroop has served in the Department of Biotechnology for nearly 29 years and was holding the position of Senior Advisor Scientist till she was appointed as the Secretary to the Government of India on 10th of April 2018. 2 days ago, Dr. Renu Swaroop has been assigned additional charge of the post of Secretary, Department of Science and Technology. It is notable that she is the first women secretary of the Department of Science and Technology. She also holds position of Chairperson, Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, a public sector company incorporated by the government to nurture and promote innovation research in the biotech enterprise with special focus on startups and small and medium-sized enterprises. A PhD in genetics and plant breeding, Dr. Renu Swaroop completed her postdoctoral research at the John Innes Centre, Norwich, UK, under Commonwealth Scholarship and returned to India to take up the assignment of a science manager in the Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India in 1989. As a science manager, she worked on policy planning and implementation. She was actively engaged in the formulation of the biotechnology vision in 2001, National Biotechnology Development Strategy in 2007, and Strategy 2 as the member of Secretary of the Expert Committee during the years 2015 to 2020. Dr. Renu Swarup has also been closely involved in programs and activities related to women and science. She was responsible for getting implemented the DBT scheme on biotechnology career advancement for women scientists, BioCare. She was also a member of the Task Force on Women in Science, constituted by the Scientific Advisory Committee to the Prime Minister. Dr. Renu Swarup has also held charge of Managing Director, Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, a public sector company incorporated by the Government of India to nurture and promote innovation research in the biotech enterprise with special focus on startups and small and medium-sized enterprises till she took over charge of chairperson. Through biotechnology, translational research, and industry academia partnerships, she has supported more than 1,000 startups and entrepreneurs and nearly 500 small companies for innovation research and product development. She is a member of the National Academy of Sciences India. She is also a member of the governing body of national institutes, universities, and cantors. She was awarded the Biospectrum Person of the Year award in 2012. She also received the National Entrepreneurship Award 2017, which is a special jury recognition award for government mentor. Let us now listen to the words of Dr. Renu Swarup.
Morning to all of you, and Sairam to everyone who is attending this very important conference. You are doing this startup, stand up, scale up for entrepreneurship, and I'm pleased that the Institute has taken up this very important initiative. Compliments to each of you, compliments to the Vice Chancellor, to all the faculty and the university for identifying this as an important initiative. The fact that it's being done by the Anantapur Girls College again makes it all the more interesting, because we are talking now about women empowerment, especially in terms of the women entrepreneurship activities. What really is entrepreneurship? Why do we say stand up, start up, scale up? The reason is that there is so much happening in the science, technology, innovation arena. There are some very interesting research leads which are coming out from our research institutes, including yours. Universities, research laboratories, national laboratories, all have come together to look at what really is the need of the country in terms of our gaps at the societal level, in terms of the healthcare needs, agricultural needs, industrial needs. And then once they identify these gaps, looking specifically at innovations which can address these gaps, address these challenges, and come up with solutions which impact society. We have seen this happening over the last many years, and in the last few years especially, there has been a huge focus on creating the startup ecosystem. The Government of India, through its various initiatives, has worked closely with universities and institutes across the country to develop a very strong and vibrant ecosystem. The whole startup ecosystem today has connections from the research laboratory to the market. We've created a very seamless flow in which, from research laboratory through the translational phase, the entrepreneurs can come forward, take it through these translational shared facilities that we have created, brought in investment opportunities, funding opportunities, guidance and mentorship on regulatory aspects of it, and then most importantly, connecting it to the market, to the end users, to the stakeholders, be it commercial products which go through various market-driven needs, or the societal products which again are driven by the needs of the society at the grassroots level, and of course the social innovations which we also bring out, and they do address a large population. And today, the innovations that we are doing within this country are not just innovations for the country. Many of them are going across the borders. And we have innovations which are being done in India, and for the world. And we've seen success cases in that as well. The current situation that we are in, and especially the COVID, it brought to us a huge challenge. The challenge that it brought to us was we were suddenly, it sort of impacted each and every life on this planet. We had to look for solutions to manage COVID, solutions which helped us to look at the healthcare interventions, whether it was for testing, diagnostics, or it was for treatment when we were looking at therapeutics, including the natural products, and of course the prevention through vaccines. We also are looking at very hardcore basic science, and that is understanding the virus, looking at the genome sequencing, looking at how the host pathogen is related. What is that impact? What is the genotype impact that is it's causing for the host pathogen interaction? But when this challenge came before us, we also took this as an opportunity. And the opportunity was to see how our startups, how our young researchers can respond. And today, when we are nearly more than a year and a half into this, we have seen each and every scientist from the research laboratory, from the startups, from the industry, responding to this challenge, standing up, identifying what the problems are, finding excellent solutions. The story that we have of the diagnostics itself is very satisfying, where we started in March 2020, where we were fully dependent on imports for diagnostic kits to test the SARS-CoV-2. And we then have, in a short period of time, in less than 3 months, built capacities within the country. Our first indigenous diagnostic kit was approved in March 2020. And by May 2020, we had built capacities to cater to our own needs. Today, our capacities are huge. Nearly about 80 to 100 lakhs per day is what the production capacity is. So we are today not only just self-sufficient to be able to meet our own needs, which is running into a couple of lakhs per day of test kits, but we are also in a position to be able to export them now for other countries. Your own institute, I know, has been deeply involved in developing a diagnostic kit, and we hope that that itself will be a wonderful contribution that this institute and its young researchers have made to the management of COVID. Like this diagnostic kit story, we have many other interventions which young startups have brought out, from masks to PPE kits to sanitizers to the thermal screeners. We have excellent remote patient monitoring systems using artificial intelligence and other such tools. We have startups who brought in the vaccine carriers for the transportation of vaccines. Huge number of them, over 100, 150 such innovations which have been brought out, and they are being used today. They're in the market, they're being deployed by hospitals, by state governments, by others. And then we know that the vaccines again have been a wonderful success, which all of us are very proud of, that in a short period of time, in less than 1 year, our scientists brought out vaccines, which today are part of the world's largest immunization drive. And they are coming out with more and more research for new innovations. We had the first DNA vaccine, which has just been given emergency use authorization. We have the mRNA vaccine, which is being developed, our own Indian mRNA vaccine, vaccines on different platforms. So if in this difficult time of COVID, we could bring together the researchers, the startups, the academia, post-COVID, This is something which should actually stay, not just for our response to COVID, but our response for all such challenges. Whether it's in other fields of biopharma, other infectious diseases, we already have put out our national calls for tuberculosis, for malaria, for many other such priorities, lifestyle diseases, maternal and child health, cardiac diseases, age-related diseases. So I think the targets are so many. It's now important for young innovators to identify these targets, identify the needs, and then take their research in that direction that it delivers. My own department, the Department of Biotechnology, has created a very robust ecosystem. And this robust ecosystem today for startups is about more than 4,500 young biotech startups, more than 60 bio-incubation centers. We have 5 regional centers. We also run a social innovation program in which we have about 14 social innovation centers called Sparsh centers, where we do clinical immersion, where we do on-site immersion to do need identification, and then identify the needs to be able to take them forward as research leads for product development. We also have excellent ways in which we can engage with and support the young students. We have what we call the e-Yuva scheme, the young entrepreneurs, encouraging them for taking on research. This we are doing through colleges, technical universities, and then the young students in school, our Sitare scheme, where we are looking at students who can look at accelerated research innovations. So the point is, how do you ignite these young minds and take them to be able to take on challenges, not just of the country, but globally as well? Women entrepreneurs, as I said, there is a special focus to try and see how we give them a level playing field. Once you give them a level playing field, they would make the most of it and be able to deliver. There are special women entrepreneurial incubation centers that we have set up. There are women entrepreneurial parks, awards, many other such schemes. And today, we do have a large number of women entrepreneurs who are being supported, who have taken on the risk, who've taken up the challenge. And today they're delivering. They're delivering some of the very best innovations to this system. And I would urge each of you who is involved in research, you do have a very, very good cutting edge research center. You should look at taking up your research activities, innovative research activities, with the commercial and business model in mind, that how do you take them to market? When we talk about commercial and business models, it's not always models which go for large national or domestic or international markets. It's also business and commercial models which we can take many of these innovations to society. And I think that is really what the focus should be for an institute and university like yours. You are doing so much in terms of societal outreach, so much in terms of benefiting the society, so much in taking your research to meet the needs of society. You have already very active societal test beds where you can validate your technologies, your products. I think what is important is all the innovation that you're doing, you should integrate it to your already existing societal programs. There are so many societal development programs that you're doing, whether it's for the water project or for your maternal health or looking at nutrition. You have so many such projects that you have. Can you just try and identify those needs and integrate your innovations to those? Your own super specialty hospitals and your other hospitals in Bangalore and Prashanti Nilayam, they are the hospitals that you should work with to see what are the needs of those clinicians. In fact, you can really do a wonderful clinical immersion program. Sit with your doctors, identify their needs, take up those research activities and provide them. You have this very extensive women empowerment program where you try to engage women for employment, for looking at nutritious food development, looking at food that you prepare for your Narayan Sevas, which you distribute in villages. Look at some of your innovative technologies which can bring in nutrition, which can enhance the nutrition component of this food. Look at some of your food technologies that you can take to these projects, but how could they absorb these technologies? You don't really have to go very far. You have it within your ecosystem. Similarly, your technologies on clean water, they could become part of your whole water project. So you have a large number of these demonstration sites, validation sites, which exist within your system. You just have to now fine tune your thoughts to see how you take your research to the end product. You should try and engage young students as well. They should become part of your whole innovative translational ecosystem. And you should then work with the industry and startups who will be able to take this technology to large scale development, manufacturing. So somebody has to do that. Your technology has to move out of your laboratory. So I would like to wish you good luck. You have excellent speakers who listed here. I'm sure you'll have a very productive 2-day conference. Make the most of it and try and see how your excellent research reaches the end users. So good luck, all the best, and have a very productive discussion and meeting. Good day and Sairam. Thank you.
Sairam, my pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet. I would like to thank our eminent guest of honor, Dr. Renu Swaroop, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, also the Secretary of Department of Science and Technology, for her inspiring and motivating talk. Thank you, Madam, for your words of wisdom. I'm sure that all of us would agree with Madam's view that the best way to predict our future is to create it. It was great to hear from her as to how our country has responded to COVID-19 pandemic by taking many initiatives on vaccination drive, build capacities and healthcare system in the least possible time. In her inspiring talk, Madam emphasized on the need of strengthening the base and including the women entrepreneurs in innovation and decision making. The entire government ecosystem is focused on promoting startups and building leadership by capturing young minds of students, nurturing and empowering them through special social innovation programs such as e-Yuva scheme and Sitare scheme. I am sure that this will certainly propel the young minds to be leaders not just for themselves, but also role models for our future and budding entrepreneurs and scientists in order to address the challenges of the nation. Now, it is with great pleasure that I introduce the second speaker for today's session, Mr. Naveen Lakur, who is the founder and chief innovation coach at the Institute of Inspiring Innovation. He's going to talk to us about entrepreneurship as a national priority in Indian context and path ahead. Now, this is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested because entrepreneurship and innovation plays an important part in developing a nation. This ecosystem in the nation is a priority of the government, and entrepreneurs must take advantage of this by building sustainable businesses. Mr. Naveen Lakur is a serial entrepreneur turned innovation coach. He loves to inspire enterprises and entrepreneurs to innovate and guides them to grow in the right direction. In his professional career spanning 25 odd years in the industry worldwide, not only has he co-founded several innovative companies, but he has also been a catalyst for 250 plus ideas to become commercial realities. He helps corporate build robust innovation culture. Many corporate divisions, such as Dell Research and Development, Mercedes-Benz Research and Development, Standard Chartered Bank, TCS Healthcare, Fujifilm, Sericol, Crimson Logic have utilized his training programs. He is very passionate about sharing his practical knowledge of building companies and nurturing ideas. Through his talks, training programs, and workshops, he has inspired over 1 lakh professionals and students. He believes and strives to love all and serve all. His spiritual orientation is not a weakness but a great strength to galvanize people and their minds. He is a good mentor for all startup entrepreneurs. He believes new age leadership is driven by innovation, intrapreneurship, and entrepreneurship, and Sir is very dedicated to this idea and is committed to nurture them. He offers strategic consulting for enterprises on a short term outcome basis, helping them with business model innovation, product launch strategies, and ideation. He engages with companies as a strategic advisor, guiding them to achieve business growth. He has been featuring as Young Turk on CNBC TV 18. Besides his active engagement with the industry, he indulges in writing books with international recognition and he loves telling business stories. Sir is a passionate speaker, an acclaimed storyteller, and an author of 2 inspiring books. Inseparable Twins, his first one, is a business advisory book to inspire innovation and entrepreneurship. His very latest book, Found, provides a framework for transforming ideas into sustainable businesses. With this introduction, I would now like to invite Mr. Naveen Lakur, founder and chief innovation coach at the Institute of Inspiring Innovation, to deliver his talk. Sairam.
Sairam, a quick sound check. Am I audible?
Yes,
A
sir.
quick
You're
sound
audible.
check. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're
Okay,
audible. Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you so much. So, what a wonderful session started off, and it's such a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to interacting with all of you and starting with my presentation. Sairam again. So, can we have my slides? So, I'll get started. This is a topic which is so close to my heart as entrepreneurship and innovation, and I'm looking forward to sharing some thoughts in terms of what it is from the national priority in the Indian context. And we need to go to the first slide, please. Can we have the first slide? No, it's the first slide. Please start with the first slide. Yes, thank you. And if it can be in the slideshow mode, it will be easier. Okay, so today I've been looking at sharing some thoughts on national priority in the Indian context, and also the path ahead. What is there ahead of us? You all game, and we will get moving. So can we have next slide, please? Yeah. While introduction, I heard that the mention of this book, Inseparable Twins. This is a book to inspire young minds and to inspire innovation and entrepreneurship. That's the way the new age leadership is going to be defined. Incidentally, this has been dedicated to Sri Sathya Sai Baba, my guru, and he guided me through this. And in fact, this was the first book beyond this one, which was sold in Puttaparthi to inspire the young minds. And it's about the stories, it's about the characters. I want to introduce you. Well, I got introduced, but here are three members in this book. It's also been translated into Kannada by a chartered accountant to reach to the grassroots levels of aspiring entrepreneurs. And it's titled Avali Javali Sutragalu. And there we have these three characters, as I mentioned. Is one is Appy. An Appy is a male elephant. Tuska is an amazing, strong guy. And he loves to be in the forefront, helping his herd and move forward, right? Very creative guy and a happy-go-lucky guy, so he's this Tuska, okay, very powerful too. So that's Appy for you, and he's synonym to happiness. And his twin is Proppy. She is a very, very sharp lady, and sharp girl. That she is got beautiful eyes, and she means business. She's got phenomenal ability to multitask, and she knows how to organize things, and she is synonym to prosperity. So, and she's so beautiful. So that is Appy and Proppy, and they get to meet a human friend, and eventually he becomes a mentor. His name is Lucky. So this is an introduction of Appy, Proppy, and Lucky, and they are going to be there here with you all today for this session to talk about the national priority, Indian context, and path ahead. So are you all game? And let's see what they have got to say and ask and tell. Next slide. These guys are bustling with energy, and Appy and Proppy are always asking questions and questions. The power of questions, actually. Lucky always appreciates it. And the very first question they asked Lucky is that, man, why entrepreneurship? Why should we be embracing entrepreneurship? Why should we be taking that as a path for our career? And we are interested to know about it. Why? The big question, the why entrepreneurship, right? Next question, please. Next slide. And what do you think Lucky would do? And, now he's thinking, what should I do? So he realized the next slide, please. He realized that, how beautifully. Can we have the next slide, please? How beautifully Sri Satya Sai Baba once answered this question. Why entrepreneurship? And Swami said so lovingly, he said, see, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs are a special category people who identify some problem out there which needs to be solved, which needs to be addressed, which needs to be, fulfilling the need, right? And then entrepreneurs are those special category. Instead of seeking jobs, they provide jobs. And he said, entrepreneurs are that special category people who actually are capable of creating value and wealth. And good people need to create value and wealth. In fact, entrepreneurship is the way to build a sustainable economy. So this is the answer by Sri Satya Sai Baba once, and he shared this to Appy and Proppy. So now, next slide. What do you think would Lucky do? Now Lucky is, can we have next slide, please? Lucky decided to give some task. And why entrepreneurship is a national priority became a task assignment to Appy and Proppy. So they had to now go look for answers. And, these guys are very sharp and smart. And, so they are into the task. And do you want to know what they want to come back and share with? Next slide. You will hear what exactly are the thoughts that they want to share with you. So the exchange of thoughts here from Appy and Proppy is the 7 things as benefits as to why it should be a national priority. And one is creating jobs. At a nation level, job creation is very, very important thing, because and especially for the youth, right? And then balanced regional development. It brings in a balanced regional development. It increases exports, and exports increase is very essential for the nation's growth, and helps in community development. And then they said supports wealth creation and sharing. Then they also said improves standard of living. That's very important. And from a national level, better GDP and per capita income. So now can you relate to what Sri Satya Sai Baba said? And here are the 7 things. Now, again, like, smart guys, they did answer that. But they are now back with a question. How does entrepreneurship landscape look like in Indian context is the question that Appy and Proppy are asking to Lucky now. So in the Indian context, Appy and Proppy, okay. So Lucky now is looking at what does he say. So next slide. In the Indian context, entrepreneurship is very segmented. The 3 major segments. One is business owners and self-employed are the majority of the chunk in India. In fact, a lot of women as micro nano entrepreneurs, they are there doing mundane jobs and labor work and so on. So they are also there. But then there are business owners who have few employed members, but it's the entrepreneurship is at the business owner thinking. The next level are the ones which are become enterprises. You can imagine how, say, Infosys or a Wipro, or now even the Flipkarts of the world, they've all become big enterprises now. Entrepreneurial ventures become big enterprises now. And then on the top, which are not as many as those, but then it's growing. So that's the new gen entrepreneurship, right? The entrepreneurs of the current generation who are embracing this path and wanting to make a difference, right? So it's segmented in India. So at the same time, can we have next slide, please? The startup ecosystem is fantastic in India as of now. I'm sure you're aware that India stands at number 3 position in the startup ecosystem in the world. So it's becoming very vibrant. When we all started as our entrepreneurial journey, they said, you need to start from the scratch. So we didn't even have a scratch. So we had to scratch and then get started. But today there's a phenomenal ecosystem which is available, and it's also supported by government. What is this ecosystem looking like? As we say, and the other is the corporate connect. If you look at in the corporate, even the large corporates, they've also started wanting to be associated with the startups, and it's the coolest thing to happen, right? For the corporates too. And even some corporates like Target, which is a multinational company, they have their incubation centers to support without having to even charge anything and so on, but they want people in the retail industry for them to start, right? Microsoft Accelerator as an accelerator program. They started as an incubation center earlier, then moved up to accelerator. Then if you look at corporates like Citrix to NetApps, everybody has got their own ecosystem participation and support system coming in, because they are very interested to see how we can collaborate, how young minds could be associated, and support the passion that they have and the commitment that they bring to solve some problems out there in the society. And some of them are even very interested to support because there is a social impact which is happening, right? And the other side is about the global and local funds which is available. Earlier it was so difficult to get any investments and beyond what you could do, and you had to have businesses which could only generate revenue and make profits. Out of that you plow it in and so on. Now you have investor support, and the funding ecosystem is growing. and one of the most vibrant in which is in India. Both locally and global players are participating, and it's become a big game of investments and multiplier effect coming in, right? So can you imagine with this post COVID, while COVID we say is got everything to the standstill, but on the startup ecosystem, especially the ones which had started earlier, one side, the younger ones may be finding it difficult to progress and figuring it out or pivoting and remodeling and so on. But on the other side, those who got some traction, they are able to accelerate heavily during this COVID pandemic times, and they're growing leaps and bounds. And in fact, in the last 7 months, the funding which has happened is like $6.8 billion into the startups. Can you even imagine that happening, which took many, many years to get to that kind of a quantum? Now in 7 months, it has happened. Okay. And we had something like 38 unicorns. Unicorns are those who are valued, the startups which are valued more than $1 billion. And here comes 38 before the pandemic, and now it's crossed 53, and count is growing. Can you imagine? In such short period, it's all shooting up. And then if you look at incubation centers which are there in India, so earlier again incubation center was like very few, and now the even government support with AICs coming up, Atal incubation centers are so many. One, you have beautiful one in Anantapur also, SKU, Sri Krishna Devaraya University. They've set it up, and in fact the CEO of that is Swami student. And I visited their center recently last year, and I saw such wonderful energy being there, and interacted with some of the young entrepreneurs. And I remember one girl there, she's started on an entrepreneurial journey. Currently, she's still maybe a student. And she said, I asked what inspired her. And she said, there are so many weeds kinds of those trees which are grown, but they're not being used for any major things. I saw, why can't we use it? It's actually becoming a menace the way it is growing. So much wildly it is growing. And but there should be some benefit. Why not? And she decided to experiment and tried to create furnitures out of that. It's like the bamboos, but it's not bamboos. Beautiful furnitures that she's created, and now been able to even put it to market, and she's looking at scaling and so on. So look at it locally, what is available, that too which was not used and so on, as a resource. And here she's utilized this incubation center in Anantapur and creating an impact, right? So, and creating employment, and there is revenue generation, creating a social impact out there. So many things. And these incubation centers are playing that catalyst role. They are bringing all the other players what is there required for entrepreneurs for that support. Another one I would like to give as an example is during this period of pandemic, incubation centers have been getting a fantastic support from Atal Innovation Mission as part of their mission to mentor the CEOs and the managers of incubation centers all over India. So I was a super mentor. I've been a super mentor to these incubation centers, and one such incubation center I was mentoring is LMCP. This is the first first institute on pharma, which started after independence for India, after we got independence. So this is a very well-established pharma institute, and they had started this incubation center. And we were doing this sessions with the CEO and so on. So then we were talking about the innovation, and because they're in the pharma and now the healthcare is on high priority in terms of its innovation and entrepreneurial opportunities. The landscape is pretty large. The canvas is very large. So how do you utilize? So then when we were talking, all the innovation was around the vaccination, because the vaccine wasn't there at that point in time. I'm talking about early last year. So in 2020, when things were all locked down and people were figuring out how to move forward and what do we do, and a lot of emphasis on innovation for a vaccine. So I was telling them, you are running an incubation center on pharma industry and healthcare. Are we looking at startups, and are we looking at industries which actually should be also considering the support system which is there? Can you even imagine, if the whole world needs vaccination, how many syringes are required? It was mind-boggling. So just that thought triggered them to start interacting with the industry bodies and entrepreneurs, essentially, to seize such opportunity. In fact, actually, Gujarat today is the highest exporter of production and export of the syringes, which is happening. And they ramped it up in pretty quick time, and there was a lot of support which came even from the government and even the banks and so on. So because they understood how this could be seized, and only entrepreneurs can do this very well, right? So the other side is entrepreneurship development programs itself. These incubation centers, one side is happening, and it's getting organized, and there is a method to the madness. So how we could engage the youth, and every educational institution is coming up with incubation centers now to foster innovation, to foster entrepreneurship. And there is a method that it can be done. A lot of it could be taught, while many things need to be explored, but the structure could enable and accelerate their whole journey and make it smoother. While entrepreneurial journey is a challenging one, it is meant to be. That's what gives us the kick, right? So but these programs is going to help us equip better and move forward. The other is the encouragement for women. So there is a phenomenal support coming in, and India understands, even though at the top it's not only recently, there was one women led as an entrepreneur, became a unicorn from India, right? But there is a lot of potential, and in India there is special attention. Just now we heard from Dr. Renu about it, and there's a lot of emphasis given. And who else other than us from India and in the Indian context can easily understand and relate to entrepreneurship and the power that the women has, right? So one story again, thanks to Swami for teaching me such beautiful lessons. The innovation per se itself, or the journey of innovation or entrepreneurship, has three phases, right? The phase one, which is it's a godly work. So God itself and himself is like the three phases, right? One is the role of G, which is Brahma, and the role is to generate ideas. Then the O, which is the operations, and the role played is by Vishnu, right? Is the operator. Then that's what company needs to go through, that operations. And D as disruption. In innovation, as entrepreneurs, you need to disrupt. And that's the role played by Shiva, the Trimurtis, right? The Brahma, Vishnu, and the Maheshwar. So if you really look at them, they are, it's God's work. Entrepreneurship is God's work because it's bringing transformation in the world. And if you look at the three roles, but if they have to, really, am I audible? I just need a confirmation. Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Have I been audible? Because I've been continuing to speak. Not sure.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So go ahead, put it back on the slideshow mode. So good. I was telling you the story of the Brahma, Vishnu, and the Maheshwar as the Trimurtis, and doing that, beautifully managing their roles. But Swami said, you know what? Brahma is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is his wife. And what is the role of Brahma? To generate ideas, a lot of ideas, right? And creation. What do you need for that? You need knowledge. And who is his wife? His wife is Lordess of, she's goddess of knowledge, Saraswati, right? So the Brahma's inseparable twin there is Saraswati. So then if you created a business, if you have to run the business, you have to, move across in the entrepreneurial journey, what do you need? You need the operations. And for operations to be at its excellent level, first thing for operations is about cash flow. And who is Vishnu's inseparable twin as a wife? Is goddess of wealth, Lakshmi. And he's got the best pairing, right? So if you really look at Vishnu, won't be able to do any of his job without the support of goddess Lakshmi. And for disruption, what do you need? You need power, and you need that courage. And who is Shiva's wife? That is goddess Shakti. And the best possible for power, right? So goddess of power. So what an ideal pairing. So one without the other is incomplete. Actually, the journey of entrepreneurship is a very godly work. God is generator, operator, and disruptor, and their roles played by for each of this phase is led by Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. And for them, the support, the best support that they could have ever had, and the ideal pairing, which is like co-founders, right, is goddess Saraswati, goddess Lakshmi, and goddess Shakti. What an amazing design by God for the godly work, right? And they doing that. It's so inspiring to me when I heard that kind of an analogy and parallel, and what a model. So thanks to Swami for teaching us such wonderful things, right? So the other is open innovation. Now you understand in the ecosystem and the way innovation is happening and the need for it. Earlier, it used to be innovation used to be like seen as privileged few only. But actually, it needs to be democratized, and everybody has that potential need to participate and make a difference. It needs to be centered around human values. Otherwise, innovation by itself can be dangerous. And what excited me today to be addressing and speaking through this forum in this e-conference is that who else other than you all can easily relate to the human values, because you've been ingrained and learning it. It is part of your DNA. So all the more, if you are inspired to become those entrepreneurs or be associated with startups and develop that entrepreneurial mindset, even if you're in the corporate, you would make a huge difference with the open innovation, right? And technology adoption, the way the adoption of technology is happening and the penetration, that is what actually creating the impact and the acceleration effect in the current times, as to why in India, in the Indian context, it is doing amazing. I have to tell you one quick story of how when Facebook acquired the WhatsApp for $19 billion. So we were wondering, what big innovation is there in the technology there? It is very simple. We can build it. Messaging system was already there and all that. We were figuring it out. But that time we were going for one meet. Some 15 CEOs were traveling to a model village in Nizamabad district. It's called Mapalle now. It's got renamed as from Narsingapalle to Mapalle. And we were discussing, or the CEOs were discussing, just then the deal had happened. And we were wondering, and the person who was guiding us, he got a call. He just stepped back, and then he said, I think somebody was other line, they were asking for details, and he said, oh, I will WhatsApp you the details. All the CEOs started looking at each other. Then we realized why Facebook paid so much money for a simple technology and for just a 50-odd member team with no revenues and with potential for revenue, but that kind of a money was paid. Technology adoption had happened. It's the timing, and it could be simple, but then the adoption which mattered, right? So that's an example. And changing perceptions. This reminds me of one situation that I had when I used to be a CEO of a tech company. So there was one young boy who walked up and spoke to me, and he said, "Sir, I want to quit the job." So I said, "Why? It's such a fantastic project that you're working on, a lot of learning for you, and things are good, and you're doing well. Why?" He said, "No, sir, they are looking for alliance for me for wedding." So I said, "What has that got to do with you wanting to quit the job?" And he said, "No, the girl side is asking if where I'm working, and if I'm saying a startup, they are a little concerned. And if I say some large company, multinational company, or the big brands, then they are comfortable and so on." So I said, "Oh, we can't do much about it. We can't grow into an enterprise overnight." But I thought it was a weird reason. But when my book launch Found happened, I was talking to some of the young entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneur. One boy walked up to me and said, "Sir, I'm so interested about this." And I said, "What is interesting to you? Why are you interested about entrepreneurship?" He said, "They are looking for an alliance for me in the family, and the would-be father-in-law says, what are you doing in a large corporate? Go become an entrepreneur. I will give you my angel and some investment for it." So father-in-law, would-be father-in-law, has become an angel investor now. So that's the change in perception in India. So in the Indian context, can we have next slide, please? So the ecosystem is growing fantastic. So here in today's startup, here is a task for Appy and Proppy again. Indian startup have become role models for global companies, and he's asking why. So because of the strong ecosystem. Now as to why, can we have next slide? And Appy Proppy, they are phenomenal. They just come back and they are able to give 5 points. It's the innovative products which are coming out of India, so effective business models, and the exceptional execution capabilities, the kind of techniques that we are using and able to produce, and supportive government policies and large consumer base. This is one of the reasons even why multinational companies want to be here, is because we have a large consumer base. And so Appy and Proppy got a pat, and a little sugarcane juice too from Lucky. So next slide, please. So what is that path ahead was the next big question asked by Appy and Proppy, and we will see what Lucky has to say. Lucky, next slide. Yes. He says, it's the stand-up strategies. One is the startup, which we heard, and the stand-up, if we want to stand up, we have to build on innovation foundation. Typically, when we talk about innovation, we think of only product innovation and so on. India has a phenomenal opportunity. We have been driven by services industry. So there is a lot of innovation possible in the services side. And if you look at the Swiggies to many of these new unicorns, they're all service driven, right? The Zomatos and many of these tech-enabled startups. So there is a lot of possibility of innovation in the services side, the policy side, business model innovation, or if you look at process innovation. These are all possibilities that it's not tapped fully. There is it needs to be, right? So it has to be built on innovation foundation, going beyond even the product, and moving from being a services industry into also venturing into products, so that we can go global, cater to in larger volumes. So next slide. So it's important that we understand, like Appy and Proppy are like two sides of the same coin. So innovation and technology should become two sides of the same coin in an entrepreneurial journey as inseparable twins. Because if you see how every industry, the startups are now getting bucketed into fintech, agri-tech, or biotech, to name the industry, right? High tech to, if you really take health tech. So technology is becoming the other side of every industry. So innovation and technology need to become inseparable twins, and like two wheels of the cart to run your business and entrepreneurial journey. Next slide. So Indian entrepreneurship itself, the way it is going to look like, and it's falling into these buckets, which is replicate rest of the world. It's happened elsewhere. It's been successful. So we bring it to India. We make that Indianized and cater to India market, just the way like Flipkart did, looking at Amazon in the US, right? And now, of course, both are coexisting. Like that, there will be many of those which gets replicated into our market. The other is India specific. Do it for what is required. Like one example, this guy, Organic Mandya is the company. Madhu Chandra came back from the US in the Silicon Valley and became a farmer now. And he says, and the way he's scaling it, engaging and catering to the whole of, he wants that model to be replicated all over India, catering to the rural market, to the farmers, right? And enabling them. So third kind of category which is going to be is develop locally, deliver globally. Many of these SaaS kind of technology enabled companies, entrepreneurial journeys like Zoho and Freshdesk, so many of them are now Oyo also. How it started here, and I felt so happy to see Oyo rooms being available in London when I was traveling there. I just wanted to go experience, just because this is an Indian brand now globally available, right? So entrepreneurial journey coming from Ritesh Agarwal, coming from a rural place and becoming the youngest billionaire in the world, and so on. So what a story. So it's an inspiring journey, right? So Indian entrepreneurship into these three categories. Next slide, please. So the other trend that we are going to look in the future is the path ahead is scale up strategies, such as corporates would start looking at startups as their innovation labs, right? How they will coexist. And the next slide, please. And the other is the startups, the way they are getting funded. For example, Byju's in the EdTech, and they are getting so much of funding that they will start acquiring enterprises, which they did recently, and more is going to happen in the future. So startups, can you even imagine how it's flipped on the other side, where startups are going to be acquiring enterprises, just the way the goddesses come to the forefront during the Dasara season, right? So same way here, the startups will start looking at acquiring enterprises. Next slide. And you'll also see it's just started, several companies which are startups going public, and a lot of M&As consolidation to happen. So it's going to be an interesting time and phase for exploring entrepreneurship and riding that wave. Next slide. After listening to all of this, Appy and Proppy are so excited, and they've got into an argument. They want to become entrepreneurs now. And Appy is saying it's all about ideas, and Proppy is saying it's all about execution. So now they are in a tug of war. Do you think anybody can just go in when these two elephants are in a tug of war? Lucky has to come, but I think he has to invoke Sri Satya Sai Baba, and who could only manage this big two elephants, but they are very constructively arguing. And then obviously Swami says that you are inseparable twins. So if ideas, without ideas, there's no execution. But a good idea, badly executed, is of no value. So entrepreneurs think value of idea is 80%, rest is 20%. Investors think value of idea is 20%, rest is 80%. So there's no balance. You need that ecosystem can help you to create and how do you progress. And this is where incubation centers and accelerators, they're all playing a big role, fantastic role. So next slide. Now that Appy and Proppy decided to become entrepreneurs, and they've got into constructive discussions and building their knowledge, and they're talking about creativity and innovation, how they are inseparable twins. The next slide, please. And they also realize there is a need in this entrepreneurial journey to have vision and to have a mission, right? Next slide. I know Appy and Proppy continuously have a lot of questions, and so might be you. And questions are very good in the entrepreneurial journey and in the process of innovation. So it's so important. Ask questions and continue your journey and to solve problems out there. Next slide. And Appy and Proppy, who are synonym to happiness and prosperity, and entrepreneurship and innovation journey are unique journeys which brings both happiness and prosperity. Thank you very much. Love you all. Jai Sai Ram. Love all, serve all.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your inspiring thoughts and views today, coupled with so many beautiful examples. And I'm very sure all the budding entrepreneurs listening today will find these ideas very useful in bringing their creative concepts to life. Now, there are many questions coming up from the students and alumni fraternity, but due to paucity of time, we shall take up only few questions. The first question is coming from Priya Ramane. She's our final year's MBA student, and she's asked this question. Her query is, there are so many floating ideas everywhere. Why is it so difficult to execute them? How to assess if a business is viable or not?
Wow. The answer is, oh, there's an echo. There's feedback coming back. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Yeah. The answer is simple. The book Found that Swami wanted me to write is exactly catering to this. Not all ideas have business in it. At the same time, no idea is a bad idea. How do you pick an idea which has a higher winning potential is the book which actually got launched in Puttaparthi, and how Swami made it so beautiful, and an experience that he gave during Brindavan session that I was doing for this book Found, which incidentally got 4 international recognitions. And as a best book in entrepreneurship category, I would be very happy to present, because it's a challenging task that people go through, and this book has 3 IPs to help them, a framework called Found, for them to choose an idea which has higher winning potential. And for this girl who's asked that there would be an author's copy reaching her soon. So she has, for the question, she is getting this reward as the full book, not just an answer. So we will coordinate, and that girl would get this copy, author's copy of the book, Found.
Yes, so there is another question from Sai Prem, and he is asking, how do we define success for a startup in non-financial terms?
Okay. So wonderful question. I think if we define purpose well of the startup, then you would experience that growth, the happiness, and the prosperity beyond money. A lot of people do think money is the only term, but actually it's a resource, important resource in entrepreneurial journey. So if we identify success by itself is very subjective, so it's important to objectivize that. And if we can do that, that is where even mentors play a role. If you can objectivize and create measurement criteria, then you would be able to progress. And the measurement criteria could be beyond the finance, and even finance could be one of them, but the beyond that, right? So the purpose will help them in defining those objectives.
Right, so So one question is coming from our MBA alumni, and she says, "Sir was talking about converting creative concepts into commerce with, we should have compassion and all that. And in this world of cutthroat competition, can commerce and compassion coexist? Are they not very contradictory concepts? What is Sir's opinion on this?"
Actually, in a real situation, the sustainable way is only with that compassion. So the human values need to come to the forefront, and there is going to be a big race of what India could contribute to the whole world. Show how it can be inseparable twins of the compassion and the commerce coming together will make a sustainable business. And entrepreneurship, even catering to the UN's sustainability factors, if at all, who can do this is best coming from institutions, students coming from institutions like Swami's institutions, where human values are taught and the world and the commerce subjects are learned. How do you bring this compassion and commerce? And that's the way to build a sustainable future. And world needs more examples of that, and it is possible. Social entrepreneurship and social enterprises are on a race, and the best ones which can come out is from India.
Right, sir. So we'll just take up one last question. It's from Ramya, our first year MBA student, and she has a question: what are the most important steps that an entrepreneur should take before they start acting on their idea?
Definitely, logically, if I have to answer, the need, the pain has to be understood as to what pain they are going to address and how big it is and how painful it is. And if there is a relief, what satisfaction levels will it come, and are people ready to pay for it, right? For having that solution. So that could be a solid grounding for building a good company, a sustainable one, and with values deep rooted, it will bear good fruits.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. The questions were well answered. So there are many questions, and now we are short of time. So I will mail you, sir, all the questions.
Actually, questions are good. Now I think Appy and Proppy have really inspired the young minds that
Yes,
they are
yes.
bubbling with a lot of questions, and this is exactly why this whole book was meant for and guided by Satya Sai Baba. So thank you so much.
Yes, sir. I'm sure the audience will benefit from your experience and precious advice. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, kind attention, please. All the audience are requested to kindly fill up the feedback form, the link of which is given in the brochure. And now we will break out for lunch. Sai Ram.